In order to draw forces from the South Azure region, House Corbin has launched a diversionary invasion of the West, which inadvertently invaded the town of Galecombe. At some level, I hope, that made some sense. Anywho, this is the Battle of Galecombe. Welcome to Galecombe. This town is nestled in the Hazi Valley, with the towering Tortail Mountains to the northeast and the Hazi Highlands to the southwest. It is also the crossroads where one can find the route along the Tortail Western Passes that leads to the city of Indigoville, or they can head west into the city of Reston. Reston is a political and economic stronghold for the League, so they will certainly defend it. But right now, the League is struggling with war chest points, so their defense is paper thin. Lucky for the League, House Corbin doesn't fully appreciate how resource-stricken the League is. This attack was meant to be a feint by House Corbin, but it has already rattled the League players. Let's have a look at the attacker's force. House Corbin's 6th Mech Company had successfully defended Willowham against the Chupacabra's 5th Mech Company's force reconnaissance mission, and once again, they're facing off, which means we have another grudge match. This company took some losses, but House Corbin has repaired all the damaged mechs and replaced the destroyed archers and centurions. The company is back to full strength, and they will be deploying in the southeast corner of the battle map. The 16th Lance is a fire lance comprised of 2 archers, a longbow, and a trebuchet. The 17th and 18th Lance are both heavy battle lances with 2 banshees and 2 centurions each. They also have a battery of thumper artillery that will be able to send a barrage of steel on demand. This battlefield support asset is available on turn 1. The Chupacabras in the League were not well prepared for this battle. The Chupacabra's 5th Mech Company, a reserve company, is still recovering from a failed force reconnaissance mission in the Lambridge region. The 13th Lance is half strength and in bad shape. Currently, the Lance only has 2 Blackjacks available, but neither have received any repairs. Each Blackjack only has 3 structure points left. The Wasp and Dasher were both destroyed in a previous battle and have not yet been replaced. The 14th Lance was in better shape. It is comprised of a Wraith, a Wasp, a Blackjack, and a Locust. The Wraith has received repairs and is fully operational, but the Wasp was not prioritized for repairs and still only has a single structure point holding that mech together. The 15th Lance was a little bit more combat effective than its sister lances. It has a Stalker, a Marauder, and a Rifleman, though the Vulture has been destroyed and not yet replaced. Both the Rifleman and the Marauder have received repairs, bringing their armor and structure back to full. The Mech Company has deployed an aligned defense throughout the town of Galecombe. Their mission was to hold the town of Galecombe until a relief force could show up to replace them. Unfortunately, a relief force could not be organized in time. So, now their mission is to defend the town until reinforcements can arrive. Luckily, reinforcements have been brought in via Aerodyne dropships. The map doesn't have any suitable landing zones, so the reinforcements will have to walk onto the map from the northwest, and they will arrive on turn 2. The reinforcements are the first binary of the Alyina Mercantile League. The first binary, however, is also still not back to full strength. The first star is comprised of a Stone Rhino, a Supernova, a Hunchback 2C, a Warhammer 2C, and a Marauder 2C. This entire star has received quite a few field repairs, with most of the armor being repaired. However, amongst the mechs, there is still some structural damage. Also, the second star has not been able to replace the Ebon Jaguar that was destroyed during the fighting for South Azure. And the Kingfisher still has 2 structure points that are damaged, but the critical damage to its weapons has been restored. The second star is comprised of a Kingfisher, a Turkina, a Huntsman, and a crossbow. The League also has called in air support in the form of 4 sorties of light air strikes. These air strikes will arrive to the battlefield and be available in turn 3. The League has also tasked their Thumper artillery battery in Alpinecombe to provide fire support to the defense of Galecombe. It will be available on turn 1. Now I want to go ahead and put this out there. House Corbin accidentally took this fight. They had meant to withdraw during their strategic turns, but had run out of strategic actions, and the order to withdraw never got to this company in time. He could withdraw on turn 1, but would take a massive penalty in terms of strategic points, which the players were not willing to do. So, a battle it is. But before we get into the battle, I would like to give a special thanks to all the Patreon supporters. You truly are the motivation that keeps this channel going. I also want to take a moment to notify you of a new noble who has taken up the noble cause in a notable and noticeable way. And nobody will not be notified that Nomad has been denoted a noteworthy noble of the channel. Now, say that 5 times fast. Alright, let's get into turn 1. The Chupacabras won initiative. House Corbin will move and shoot first. House Corbin elects to do a combination of ground moving and sprinting, and he brings his 17th Heavy Lance onto the battlefield. In decent cover, but not wanting to expose her blackjacks, the Chupacabras shift their 13th Lance north behind some water processing towers. House Corbin activates their 18th Heavy Battle Lance. His Centurions ground move forward while his Banshees sprint to keep up. The Chupacabras answer by activating their 14th Lance and ordering them to stand still behind cover. House Corbin activates his last Lance, the Fire Lance, and they all ground move into cover. From that position, they can see all the way down Galecombe's main street. The Chupacabras can now activate their last Lance, the 18th Lance, which ground moves into cover and lining up their sights on the approaching enemy mechs. With movement complete, we head into the shooting phase. House Corbin will shoot first. Since all the Banshees had sprinted, the Centurions of the 17th Lance and the entire Fire Lance all opened fire at the Stalker at long range. The target number was an 11, and they had all missed. This left the Centurions of the 18th Lance. They took aim at the Blackjack, who had thought he had moved into a position to block line of sight, but they could still see him. The target number was a 10 due to long range. One missed, but one found his target, dealing 2 damage to the already heavily damaged mech. This left 1 structure point for the mech, but luckily the critical damage check was a 9, so no critical damage sustained. House Corbin, trying to finish off that heavily damaged Blackjack, called in artillery support, but unfortunately the rounds splashed harmlessly nearby. The Chupacabras can now take their shots. The 2 Blackjacks immediately returned fire at the Centurion. The target number was an 11, and despite their best effort, they missed. Next, the 15th Lance opens fire on the Tan Archer. The target number ranged from a 10 to an 11. The Rifleman and Marauder missed, but the Stalker hit, dealing 2 damage to the Archer's armor. The 14th Lance was either out of range or lacked line of sight, and therefore did not open fire this turn. The League calls in an artillery strike against the Archer, but the shells fall short of their target. With shooting complete, this brings turn 1 to a close. Both sides are exchanging fire, but not much damage is being inflicted. Well, except that Blackjack, but he was in pretty bad shape before the battle even started. Let's get into turn 2. Here we are in turn 2, and the first binary has arrived on the battlefield. House Corbin won initiative, so the League will need to move and shoot first. The first star is activated, and they ground move, following the bypass highway that runs along the edge of Galecombe. House Corbin activates their 18th Lance, and they ground move into the cover of those woods. You know, if you think about it, the woods have been very instrumental in their most recent victories, so it doesn't really surprise me that he trudges his heavy lance in there. The League is up again, and for proportional movement, they need to move 2 lances. First, the 14th Lance is activated. Concerned that House Corbin might try to push hard on the southern edge of the battlefield, the 14th Lance jumps and ground moves south to bolster the defenses there. And finally, the second star is activated and sprints onto the battlefield, rushing towards Galecombe proper to help hold the map's center. House Corbin players were very happy to see the entire first binary arrive on the battlefield. This means their fake it until you make it strategy might actually be working. To be honest, at this point House Corbin players have achieved their goal. There was no reason to stay on the battlefield. But actually there is. Me, the mean old game master, has a rule that you cannot earn your strategic points if your entire force abandons the battle before turn 4. Strategic points? No idea what I'm talking about? Basically, they are the points that the players earn from battles. Those points can be used to promote the skills of their units or to buy victory points. So we are in turn 2, The House Corbin player could retreat their mechs, saving them from combat, but forfeit the strategic points, or stay until turn 4. They decided on risking their mechs for points. Perhaps that's a greedy play, but there was also a lot of Chupacabra mechs on the battlefield that were just asking to be blown up. And who was House Corbin to deny such a request? House Corbin could move again, and he sent his 17th Lance forward toward the cover of those trees. The Chupacabras needed to do proportional movement again. First, the Blackjacks of the 13th Lance, who were already in pretty sad state of affairs, jumped back from the forward position. I guess the red Blackjack had some issues with his jump jets, but he did some quick corrective action and was able to execute his maneuver. The 15th Lance activates. Both the Marauder and the Rifleman move into cover of the woods. The Stalker shifts its position behind the industrial building to keep their TMM up. Finally, House Corbin activates his Fire Lance, who moves to break line of sight with the approaching clan mechs, but enables them to fire at the Chupacabras in Galecombe. With movement complete, we go into the shooting phase. The League will shoot first. The Chupacabras really wanted to take out the archers, but only the Blackjack had a good shot. But he missed with a target number of 10. The 15th Lance all take aim at one of the approaching Banshees and concentrate all their firepower into that mech. Target number was 9 for the Stalker and a 10 for the rest of the Lance, and they all miss. And to quote the Chupacabra player, good grief. Actually, she said something entirely different, but you get the gist. So the archers thought they had broke the line of sight, but it turns out the Warhammer Marauder could still see the Camo Archer, and they opened fire. The Warhammer missed, but the Marauder 2C hits like a truck, especially when they roll a 12, a critical hit. This took 5 points of armor and caused a critical hit to the Archer's engine. The League calls for another artillery strike against the Archer, and they nailed it, taking another armor point from the mech. House Corbin can now open fire on the League. They decided to start their shooting with their artillery and try to destroy one of those damaged Blackjacks. Unfortunately, it missed and took out some poor fella's house. Which, seeing the house blow up, gave the House Corbin player an idea. It appeared that the Chupacabras were trying to stay out of line of sight until the League's clan mechs could close in. So, the Fire Lance divides their fire and targets the industrial buildings. Target numbers were low, so the buildings didn't have much of a chance. The ruins will still provide cover, but they no longer block line of sight. Oh boy, what can I say? The players, huh? Everywhere they go, making friends. It's hard to be a civilian in the BattleTech universe. So it turns out that the woods are too thick for the Centurions to have line of sight, so it cannot fire on anything. That leaves the 2 Banshees and the entire 17th Lance, all who target the Stalker in open fire. The target number ranged from 9 to 10. Despite using lucky points, only a Centurion and a Banshee hit, dealing 6 damage to the Stalker's armor. This brings turn 2 to a close. A lot of things went boom, but all the mechs are still on their feet. Chupacabras win the initiative for turn 3. House Corbin will move and shoot first. But let's take a quick tactical pause. The League players are arrayed on the battlefield as such. First binary is located here, and the Chupacabras are here. And House Corbin's attacking forces are currently located here. The Chupacabra player is very concerned that the Heavy Battle Lance and the Fire Lance are going to smash through and take the southern part of Galecombe. If House Corbin can control both of these wood lines, the League would be hard-pressed to dislodge the House Corbin forces. Plus, from those positions, House Corbin could easily siege Galecombe. Another concern the Chupacabra player had were the 2 archers for House Corbin. Those archers had the special pilot ability of snipers, making them very effective and deadly at medium range, which they could easily be at medium range this turn's movement. Now, the 5th mech company is not the Chupacabra's best company, but she doesn't want a company of mechs to be wiped out without giving them much of a fighting chance. So as she figured, she had 2 options. She could sprint her mechs into cover of the town and wait for the clan mechs to get closer. This would allow House Corbin to take those woods, but the combined might of the 5th mech company and the clan mechs might be able to assault House Corbin. Her other option is to take the woods herself and stand strong, and hopefully, the clan mechs will be able to close and pressure House Corbin to retreat. Retreat is like a bad word in the Chupacabra's vocabulary, so she decided on the second option. But we are the omniscient audience. We already know House Corbin isn't planning to take the woods. In fact, he's just trying to run out the clock so he doesn't get a penalty. After this turn, he plans to retreat, but the League players don't know that yet. House Corbin lost initiative, so he activates the 18th Lance, who moves out of the woods and back towards the industrial park. They want to break line of sight with the clan mechs and be ready to bolt next turn. However, seeing this, the Chupacabra player took that action as evidence that House Corbin is indeed about to assault the woods in the south. The League had to do proportional movement, and she sent her 14th and 15th Lance into the woods. From this position, she hopes she can hold out against the enemy's advance. As for the lonely Blackjack of the 14th Lance, he will fall in with the battered Blackjacks of the 13th Lance. House Corbin activates his Fire Lance and pulls back. The longbow tucks into the woods, and the Trebuchet takes the longbow's original position while the two archers fall back. Watching the Fire Lance fall back washed away the Chupacabra's concerns of being attacked in the woods. In fact, the realization that House Corbin is retreating, and that House Corbin had only committed one mech company to this attack, caused an incy-wincy teeny tiny panic attack for the League players. But we will cover that in the next episode. Just know that this was the moment when they realized something is up. The League activated their first star, and they did a general advance down the road towards House Corbin mechs. And House Corbin activates their 17th Lance and falls back as well, getting in position to withdraw next turn. The League needed to do proportional movement, so the Blackjacks of the 13th Lance all stand still, while the second star maneuvers through the neighborhood to the highway, ensuring that they have some line of sight of the enemy mechs. From this location, the crossbow and huntsman can open fire on House Corbin. With movement complete, this takes us into the shooting phase. House Corbin shoots first. Again, his artillery aims for that battered Blackjack. It misses again, but falls on the Blackjack standing next to him, causing 1 structural damage and critically damaging its weapons. As for the mechs, with the exception of 2 Centaurians who did not have line of sight, nor the archer with the broken engine, the entire mech company opened fire on the Marauder 2C clan mech. The target number ranged from 10 to 11. That was a lot of firepower, and a lot of lucky points were used. Despite a lot of pulling of triggers, only 1 Banshee hit, dealing 4 damage to the mech's armor. The League returns fire. First, the Light Striker, which is now within range, begins its attack run, targeting one of the Banshees of House Corbin's 18th Lance. And the strike was successful, taking 2 of the mech's armor points. The first star all line up their sights on the blue Banshee that was lit up by the Light Striker. They fire, and they too use their lucky points, but in the end, only the Warhammer 2C hits, dealing 3 damage to the Banshee's armor. The crossbow and huntsmen on the highway take aim at one of the Banshees, but all their shots missed. The Chupacabras now took their shooting, and again aimed at the same Banshee, and only the Stalker hit, dealing 6 damage to the mech's armor.
Left 5-0.
The artillery continues to try to land shots on the archer, with another barrage finding its target, stripping the last of the archer's armor away. With shooting complete, we go into turn 4, and House Corbin withdraws from the battle he didn't even want in the first place. He did get the intel that at least 1 binary has left South Azure region. Plus, he blew up some buildings and damaged a few mechs, all without losing a single mech himself. They lost the battle, but in their mind, they won. The League still had 3 sorties left for their Light Strike battlefield support asset, so it continued to harass the forces of House Corbin as they withdrew, with 2 successful hits against the archer, inflicting structural damage and critical damage. But since the 3rd strike missed, that mech survived the battle. Not a single mech was destroyed in this battle. But the Battle of Galecombe was over. The League still controlled the road to Reston, at least for the time being. But something was bothering the League players. This attack was obviously not the main effort for House Corbin. So where is it? Where are all those reinforcements for House Corbin? Well, they have to wait until the next episode. Ooh, cliffhanger. I will say this though, the next episode is the last episode of the current phase of the war. House Corbin realizes that Reston has very few defenses, but South Azure is still occupied by the enemy. They need to make a choice because time is running out. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the battle report, and we will see you at the next battle.